Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today is Big Art Quest Day, About Face. I think this is number 10.
Oh my gosh. Number 10, yes it is.
I think it's number 10, and I'm super excited about this one because this was the first one that I posted just as to announce that we were going to be doing faces and teaching faces weekly and covering those subjects of portraits and things like that. And everybody had been really like bummed that we didn't paint it. This was actually from a daily painting I did years ago. And I just thought, oh, I can show everybody how we did it. So at least that's part of the quest and nobody's disappointed. And so we're going to cover that. And because of that, we get to cover some new stuff today. We get to cover a little bit of multimedia. We get to cover a little bit painting acrylic on paper, painting watercolor and acrylic together, and also how to get this in. I'm so excited. How's everybody doing?
Oh, good, good. I'm over here trying to get the picture-in-picture set up for later. So
yeah, we're definitely going to be using picture-in-picture, definitely references. You can check out TheArtSherpa.com for more information. You know, of course, there'll be a traceable. Of course, all the usual things that we like to provide to our community. It's going to be a really interesting project. I'm going to take my example printout over here and talk a little bit about materials while John is working things out. On the mic today is my husband, John. He reads the comments.
Hi, guys.
This is going to be a great day for questions, especially during the watercolor, because I'm going to be narrating the watercolor. And then we're going to get into doing the acrylic. I have a 9x12 watercolor block. This one's by Strathmore. And what's really nice about these is one of the big challenges to watercolor artists is the wrinkling of paper. And there's a bunch of ways that you solve that. Heavier weight paper. I think cold press tends to wrinkle less. And of course stretching, which is something we may cover at some point, but is a little bit complicated. So this block, what this is the edges are all glued right here. And then there's this little weird spot where you can take like a knife or a razor blade and peel this piece of paper off. And so that lets you do some really wet into wet techniques even when you're new. The Arches watercolor pad that is a block is a gazillion dollars. And is really great if you're a professional artist. Don't panic when you see the price of that. That's about that paper and everything. The Strathmore block is actually a really cool thing to have around. But you know what? Can you do this on canvas? I bet you guys are asking that. Yes, you can. I would highly recommend using, though, an absorbent ground before painting, so that you can do the watercolor techniques as well on your 9x12 canvas board. We're going to be using acrylic paint. We've got...
Oops. Oh, hold on a second. I got to push the other button. There it goes.
Titanium white, quinacridone magenta, cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, phthalo green, phthalo blue, and dog's purple. I also am going to be demoing in this upcoming video this little Cottman Travel Set. So this is this little weird little set that lets you have all kinds of thingies happening. Look, it goes right there. There's a brush that I have misplaced that went in there because that's just me. And I have the colors here for this. But really these are going to be approximations. But basically you have Winsor Lemon Yellow, Cad Red Pale, Cad Red Alizarin, Purple Lake, Ultramarine, Cerulean, Sap Green, Viridian, Yellow Ochre, Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber, and Titanium White. Little note on this, the CADs and watercolors are always hue.
Ooh.
So no worries there. I have my very, very favorite. This is a number 8 round black velvet. This is this is a mix of synthetic and natural hair in this particular one. And don't freak out, y'all, the hair squirrel. But what's nice about the synthetic and the cut of this brush is it pulls... wow, I'm getting a call. It pulls the paint and the wicks, everything in, and then disperses it really well. And I'm also going to show you a little bit of a hockey brush right here. And this is really nice. This is a small little 2-inch one. So these are things that you guys are going to see. I'm going to sip my coffee. We're going to have a lovely time and do portraits together. And you guys are going to be really, really impressed at how well you can do this. This is a really wonderful spring piece to do. It's going to actually come together really easily. How you doing, babe?
Pretty good.
How you guys doing?
I think you know what? This is pretty exciting. We had a pretty full crowd out here today.
We're ready to paint this face, I think is what it is. Are we ready to paint this face?
There's a lot of people ready to paint this face.
So this is the Believe face done on the half, right? So I've just taken the Believe face and I've done it half, and her forehead actually ends up about here.
Right.
If you're used to doing the Believe face, of course we'll drop a traceable, of course. But if you wanted to freehand that in, this is just the Believe face on the half. And your Believe face might be a little different than my Believe face, so don't want to limit that part of your creative journey,
Right.
of course. Do we have the video?
Yeah. We can
So
go
when
right
we're
to it.
doing this, I'm going to talk about how I painted this and the colors and the material, like the methods and stuff like that. You guys can ask questions because some of you might be really new to watercolor. If you have watercolors, first thing to do when you get them is take them out and make this little cheat sheet here. Some people are very tidy and wonderful, and they make beautiful cheat sheets like the Frugal Crafter. They're gorgeous. Mine's a hot mess. You can see I use this a lot. The wonderful thing about watercolor is that when it's dry, it constantly reactivates. So even those, you don't want to clean your watercolor palette up because those little bits of color, those are useful
Yes.
later.
The tasty color bits.
The tasty color bits will forever be used. So I very lightly sketched in pencil, super light with a hard graphite pencil, my belief face. And I have moistened, if you'll notice that my palette is shiny, moisten my palette with a mister to activate the pans. I'm using the yellow ochre and the alizarin. So this is basically our skin color. But in watercolor, the white is the paper. So you don't add white to it to lighten it. You simply do washes. Now on the washes, what you're seeing here is that I've loaded my brush with water. It wicks up a certain amount of water. It tends not to unless I work it over wick water. And I'm just, I've made a mess there, and I'm using my brush to get the mess off.
While you're making a mess, I'm going to hit pause there, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay,
So
totally. I'm so excited to
And
ask
it's
questions.
okay for me to hit pause and ask questions?
Yeah.
All right, all right.
On today, it's just about us. It's just about us questers.
All right, and so it's okay.
Other days are YouTube days, but today is just about us questers.
Because they're like, is this live? What are we, how is this working? So it's okay.
This is live.
And I can just stop this at any time and ask you questions that they may have. Okay.
I'm live,
So,
but I pre-recorded the watercolor because you should do your watercolors flat
yeah.
because they're water and they really want to run with gravity,
Yes.
and you want to have control of the gravity.
Yeah. So
We're dropping a beginner watercolor lesson tomorrow. We're going to talk about things like how much water to use, brush pressure, stuff like that.
yeah, so this is great. Okay, so you guys just go ahead and ask your questions. I'll just hit pause and make her answer them.
Yeah,
So,
we'll just
here we
hit
go.
pause. I'll sip my
All right,
coffee.
so keep
It'll
going.
be all
So
good.
You get your mess cleaned up.
So you notice that I'm just kind of using that mix of alizarin and yellow ochre, and I'm just washing this in. I'm going to be painting over this with acrylic paint, so I don't really got to be that concerned about it. This is almost like blocking in values. I know I'm going to want to put a shadow under the nose. I know I'm getting right into this orange I mixed earlier, which was the Cad Yellow Deep and the Cad Red Pale, but again, just washing this in. I know it seems counterintuitive that you can be this relaxed with paint media because it seems like you just got to do it exactly right to get the result exactly right.
Exactly.
But painting can be like that, but this is definitely not like this. Very expressive. This is the type of thing you might do in an art journal. This is the type of thing that, you know, when you're just trying to paint emotionally. I would say this is very close to the original Believe face in its intention. When I was doing my daily painting, you know, I did a bunch of these, you know, just to work stuff out. So see, I'm just using my lightest colors first. In watercolor, paint your lightest values first. Save, you know, your white. Except that we're painting acrylic, so we can come right back with white because the acrylic will paint right over the paper. It'll paint right over the watercolor. And if you didn't have watercolor, guess what?
What's that?
You can thin out your acrylics to watercolor consistency and paint right on the paper. They do that. It doesn't underbind on paper.
Oh, interesting. Wow, it did it
Let's
again.
turn my phone off. Who is trying to reach me? Is it my mom?
I don't know, but I hit mute.
Because my mom's the kind of person who would call during live. Let's just turn that sucker off. Oh my goodness. It's crazy. It's not our daughter at school though, right?
No. Sorry about that, guys.
It's just my mom.
This is the part where you were pondering something.
Oh, I don't even know what I was pondering. Thanks, Mom.
You know what I can do? I can rewind.
Rewind.
Okay, I'll rewind. Check that
Let's
out.
go back.
Okay, let's go back.
Is this live? Welcome to the livest live we've ever done.
We're going to rewind.
Oh. Okay, there we go. Acrylic
Okay.
does not underbind on paper. Okay? Because the paper pulls in the pigment and the paper is the binder. So the acrylic does not underbind on paper. Now, once we have sealed all of the acrylic and then you're painting really big washes, then that might underbind. But the initial washes don't underbind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something, and that's why you can use absorbent ground on a canvas, right?
Yep.
To get the results you're looking for. So you can just see I'm just doing this very light wash in. This is just letting me know where stuff is. I'm just kind of putting some color on the paper. I'm just kind of doing this. I'm going to do this whole thing with this number 8 round. except for the little bit where I get the paper wet to the side with the hake brush, hockey brush.
Hockey.
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 I don't know.
Hake.
I suppose we're gonna butcher the name because
Yeah.
that's what I'm good at doing.
That's what we do, so people can be like, it's Scumble, not Scrumble. Okay, well, I'm doing it. You should do it too.
Unique.
Let's everybody Scumble. Just don't even worry about it. So I'm out there. I'm adding some value. I'm adding some shadow along this jawline, just to say this is going to be a little bit in shadow. Because again, we're painting decoratively, and we're not painting observationally. Right? We're painting from imagination. This part where you see me here and me doing this with my fingers, which we usually edit out, that's me thinking. It's really funny. Doing these videos, especially this new run of watercolor videos, I've noticed.
You were thinking.
But I do this when I'm thinking. So I'm pulling in this thing. Notice, all right, so here's what's happening here. This paper is still wet, right? The pigment is still wet. And in watercolor, the pigment goes where the water is. It only goes where the water is. So if you paint an area that's wet, already wet, and add more paint to it, it's going to bleed in it. It's going to go there.
No.
Right? If it were dry, it only goes where the water is, and that's a glaze. That's how you get the difference between a glaze on a watercolor and a wet into wet on a watercolor, which we're going to talk about a lot because you have to talk about that a lot on watercolors if you're glazing or working wet into wet. Yeah, babe?
Okay, so they
More
wanted to.
sippies.
Oh, good, yeah. So they were. There's a lot of questions about whether you could do this with kids' watercolors. Do you need to have a professional watercolor to start? What watercolor will work? This
is my thinking on watercolor.
Okay.
If you're just starting out, your investment needs to be in paper.
Oh, why is that? Paper.
Because the paper will mess you up. It will just ruin your day. If you do this on, you could take the best. See, here's how you know the paper is your first investment. Because I can take Holbein watercolors or Daniel Smith watercolors. If I go on computer paper, all my skills, it doesn't matter. I'm going to have a wrinkled, hot, miserable mess that's going to make me so unhappy. Right?
Right.
Yes. Can I work myself out with coffee and a napkin? I can. But it's not like I'm having an easy time. That's like powerlifting for artists, right? That's like, oh, this napkin, right? A good sheet of watercolor paper, right? Oh, it just makes your life. It's the difference, between this and this. See the edge on that? When this gets wet, it gets soppy. Everything happens with the fiber. When this gets wet, it makes pretty things. So your first investment should be paper, and then you can invest in pigment. And look, the Cotman watercolors, Winsor and Newton, are fine. The Lucas watercolors are fine. The Artist Loft watercolors, that's all fine to start out. The issue with the Crayolas, the pigment is bananas. I love the pigment on Crayolas, but they do this thing like once you paint it with them once where they get all crystal and weird. So you might not like that.
Gotcha. Now there's I'm gonna go ahead and hit play here. Now there's a lot of people asking us to close caption this, so it's hard for us to do it live.
Yeah, can't close caption live.
Well, not yet.
Well, I mean, we can't for like $1 gazillion, but we really are an at-home YouTube show, so not really, like we're a nationally broadcasted show, maybe. But
I think I can probably do it after the show, though. I'm gonna try.
We try.
I'm gonna try after the show.
We try to close caption as much as we can, and we've opted into anything beta that YouTube does that has closed captioning. We are up for all of that, and we have a bunch of people who volunteer closed captioning. So believe it or not, you can do community submitted closed captions.
Yeah.
Where you guys could type down everything I just said. And now you're like, oh, she's too chatty. And that part where you're closed captioning this, you'll be all mad.
So now, real quick, back on paper. How many pound paper?
140.
Cold or hot?
I like cold, 140.
Cold, 140.
So cold has a rough, toothy edge.
Okay.
Great for multimedia, great for all of that. If I were stamping, I'd probably do hot press. If I were doing multimedia with stamps, I'd want hot press.
Okay.
But I'm doing multimedia with like acrylics, and for me maybe like collage and stuff like that. So always cold press because I like the tooth. I like my paper to have character and an artisanal handmade feel. But hot press is smooth, cold press is rough.
Now I'm going to hit play here, and I'm going to remind all you people, because there's a lot of new people here joining us. They really like this format. So this is and a lot of times this is the first time. So if this is your first time joining us, don't forget to hit that like, comment, subscribe, share button, all those social media
and
things.
we have some 12-minute lessons, so don't worry. They're not all like this.
But this is where we just get to come out here, connect with our community. We love hanging out with you guys. Answer some questions.
And teach you guys how to do new things.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit play again on this and let you keep going.
I love you, babe.
I love you.
That's my husband. I can say that. Okay.
I love all you guys out there too.
We love you too.
You guys,
in your community.
You
so
guys make it possible to do what we do.
Yeah, you really do.
It's
so much fun to share. So see, I've shaded the nose here and along this inside edge. Oh, and then I got too dark. So see, here's what I'm gonna do. I got too dark. So what did I do? I wiped my brush off on a paper towel and I got more water. See how that just fixed it? The other thing that you need to realize about watercolor paint is it's subtractive. So like in acrylic, it's additive. You got to add another layer. So if you're changing your mind about something, in general, yes, we all know that there's some cheats to that, but in general, you're adding a layer. On watercolor, I can always reactivate it and lift it back out of the paper. So there's almost kind of like, if you think of it as a computer program, there's like 2 undos. 2. Not 3. 2 in watercolor, which is where I think most people find stress in the watercolors. It's a little more challenging to undo. But again, this is multimedia. We're going over it with acrylic. Am I paused or am I thinking? I think I'm thinking.
Yeah, you're thinking. See,
I'm thinking.
You're thinking.
I'm thinking. So put a little shadow under here, and I'm trying to decide, do I want to... you guys get... Where I'm like, oh, I'm paused.
See, now I'm going to hit pause. It's like, is she paused or is she thinking?
I'm thinking. I'm pulling a shadow down through the divot, right? And I'm just using the burnt and the ultramarine blue to create that shadow. Now I'm back in the alizarin. You know, I'm going to do the lips in alizarin because that's going to be the underbase. And, of course, I'm going to be, with the acrylic, putting a bunch of stuff on there. And that's going to be fun.
Now, they're asking, I don't know if I should hit pause for this.
No, and we're just doing our thing. Are you guys happy? Because if you're happy, we're happy.
Hit pause real quick. So what's the difference between why is it called hot pressed and why is it called cold pressed?
That is the manufacturing process.
What
the
is
way
it?
that it's, I think in the hot press, it's literally, there's hot plates.
Yep. It's and the poundage is literally how many pounds of
paper
pressure.
Went in. No, isn't it pressure?
I believe it's
or
pounds
paper.
of force. Pounds of pressure.
Force?
Yeah, because
No, because 300-pound paper is really thick, not thin.
Right. So I don't know. You know, that's the part I don't know.
So I think it's the pulp. We're gonna verify that because we have a.
I'll tell you what. I'll hit play and then I'll look that up.
He's into machinery, so he might be right. It's one of those couple moments. He might be right, but I might be right.
Right, so I'll hit play and let you talk about this. Don't go double check it because I don't know.
He's gonna Google it.
I can Google. I have a machine.
We'll do that because now anyone can know anything. So I'm going to say it's about the weight of the pulp that goes onto the press and whether the plates are hot or not.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say. A little warning. Sometimes things will say they're for watercolor and then like you paint them and they're not too. There's these beautiful books and I got them. I did a Captain Hook in it. And they're gorgeous, and I was so excited about it. I was going to just paint all these beautiful things in it because the paper was just beautiful, and I got in there, and it was like painting on a napkin. And I had to add a Daniel Smith ground to make it paintable. I did a shadow inside the lines on the lips in here, shaping that out, and I also ran one under here, and right now I'm kind of trying to say I have an eyebrow. I've also left some white paper for where the nose has a highlight. That's important. You want to leave some white paper for the nose has a highlight. This is a different way of teaching this stuff, I got to tell you. So I got my little burnt umber out, and I'm saying, I should have a, you know, if you do makeup, I do it on my makeup, a little shadow crease. Shading out my eyes, defining. Watercolor continues to lighten up. So sometimes like it'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so dark. Either wash it back with water or let it dry because it's probably going to lighten up. Interesting thing that it does. This is my hake.
Your hockey.
You think it's hockey? And all I'm doing is, so here's the thing on water. The paper should be, if you're trying to do a really kind of wicked, you know those beautiful videos where it's like they put the drop in and it goes blah. Well, that is totally about the amount of water. If you have too much, though, if you have a pool, you don't want a pond ducks can swim in. Really think about it. If there were teeny tiny little ducks on the edge of your canvas, would they hop in?
Okay.
That's too much water.
So I just found out the thing about paper.
Huh.
Okay, I'll hit pause over here. I just did a quick search on it. Okay, so here's the skinny on paper. Hot press paper is pressed, as you would say, hot using a hot machine, and it smooths all the texture out of it like an iron.
Yes.
Cold press leaves the texture in it, right? Just as you said. Now the poundage has to do with how many pieces of paper per. Where did it go up there? And it said it exactly. Paper is measured in pounds per 500 sheets, so a ream of paper. So how many? How much does 500 sheets 500 sheets weigh? And that's 140 pounds. So it's 140 pound paper.
Right.
So that's just sort of.
I didn't know that. Now we all know it.
So the thicker
the more you know.
Yeah, the higher the number. 300 pound paper,
which is my favorite,
weighs 300 pounds for 500 sheets.
It's 300 pounds.
So it's literally double the weight of 140 paper.
I'm taking my purple lake here, which is essentially quinacridone, and my ultramarine and mixing them together because it's going to make a purple. And I'm going to I pull that, I let my paintbrush just wick that in. And I did a little splatter there. I go tap, 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 tap to splatter. And I'm just doing little dabs. And now I'm grabbing some of the crimson, just pure crimson, and I'm just randomly dashing that around to create that very expressive background. See, it's just dash, dash, dash. The paper is wet. Where it's wet, where does the paint go? It goes where the water is. All right, doesn't go where there isn't water.
Oh, it's hidden. It's hidden behind you. I'm gonna make you disappear.
What?
See, it's behind me. See, you were doing some stuff up there.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm just dashing. I'm doing it everywhere. I'm just dashing these colors. Oh, I just grabbed some of the cad red that is not cad. Hue is always just a color like it, but is not it. So Indian yellow hue is not actually urine from a buffalo. It's the hue of a urine from a buffalo. Fact. Fun fact.
Yet, I wonder.
Mummy brown, no longer actual mummies, is the hue. And actually, I think a lot of paint companies discontinued it because people don't even like to pretend to paint with dead people.
Apparently, there's an arm and a leg laying around somewhere you might be able to make some paint with, but.
Actually, no, there's an artist here in Houston. Here's a whole story there. So I'm grabbing the sap green and the Viridian, and I'm going to notice in a minute that my Viridian is just way too bright. So I'm going to come over to that plop of brown I have there to just knock that sucker back because I was like, that is too bright. And I want it, when I want colors to feel receded, I'm gonna gray them out, I'm gonna deepen them so they feel receded. Now I'm gonna grab my cad yellow. I'm going over the top here. I'm just enjoying myself. I'm trying to create myself some values. And if you notice while we've been talking, look at how the purple has bled. And now you're starting to realize that a bunch of that footage is just photography. Oh, YouTube insider tip.
So they were asking, where it was, I saw a question about asking for glasses. People would like to see you do some people with glasses so they can see that.
Yes. I have some sunglasses saved and some glasses saved, and I have found some references for men, and we're just going to be facing for a while. Just so long. Just so long. There's a lot to say on this subject, and then when we get through it, we'll go on to some figures.
So I have to remove your pictures
so you can just see I'm just like, look, I'm just dashing the brush down. I'm not, I'm just like wandering it around. And I'm letting the water do the work is essentially what this is. This is like an abstract. You can do whole kinds of abstracts like this. For those of you that are really into pouring, you can wet a watercolor block and do little fluid pours with your watercolors, by the way.
Ooh.
Very inexpensive.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And also archival and true. So many benefits to that. So we're just going here. Look at that. Isn't that nice? And it's just all bleeding up. It's pulling up into where the greatest amount of moisture is. Can you see how that's working?
Yeah.
So where has it pulled it? Because that's not a gravity-based pull. That is a capillary pull. The capillary of the paper. So, and you can see why having the sheets glued down, super awesome.
Yeah.
But you can tape down with low-tack tape.
Low-tack
In fact,
tape.
with kids, I don't even recommend using computer paper, even with kids.
Yeah. I've noticed, see, that was one of the things that, I was surprised when we were doing all this, and it was like buying really, really nice paper. You're erasing some dots there, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm getting it wet. And I might have been erasing dots. See, you can erase. 2. 2 undos. 2. Of course, there's, artists that take these limits and push them.
That you always bought really high quality supplies for our kids.
Yeah. Oh, on the paper especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I buy really good products for the kids. Not because we're particularly
Because the
flush.
kids don't fight with them then.
Yeah, it's just
I'll hit pause here for you because it is.
So here's the thing, it's not that we don't ever have those sets that have all the materials in them, but it is nice when you give the kids stuff that has enough pigment or has enough weight. You know what I mean? Like we have pretty decent paper and I tape it down.
Uh-huh.
Then their watercolors work for them and it doesn't wrinkle and make them unhappy. And there's enough going on to make them feel like they're not creative in the world.
Right.
That's my big soapbox. Isn't there? Really?
And
our school has an art program and they just gave them some colored pencils and they're going in art show with some paper. And I was like...
And I'd like to say that if you would do it for your kids, think about doing it for yourself. Because,
Within your budget.
Within your budget, yeah. But, I mean, realistically, just, don't fight, if you don't need to, don't fight with your materials, So, just...
But don't get caught up on the materials. I'm very transparent about what I'm using.
Yeah.
So you understand when I'm getting a result because of the material.
Yep.
And not because of some mystical, magical, internal secret sauce.
I love what Zoe said.
Yes. Zoe Hung, who's an illustrator on YouTube, goes, practice not magic.
Yeah.
She starts all of her illustration classes telling her students this is, because they'll be like, oh, you're magical. And she's like, no, practice, not magic. She's very strict.
Yeah, I mean,
super fun chick.
Yeah, she's
we got a collab coming up with her.
Phenomenal. She's phenomenal fashion designer. So I'll hit play for you.
Okay. So. She is phenomenal. So I'm just like, I guess I should get some yellow ochre and paint some hair here because that's probably helpful.
Some yellow ochre.
Yeah, yellow ochre. And, this is similar to the yellow ochre, the pigment. If these are big national brand companies, the yellow ochre in your watercolor will be similar to the yellow ochre in your acrylic tube. And since they're both water-based mediums, they work really well together. We wouldn't work oil paints with watercolors ever. We wouldn't work oil paints with acrylic unless we were painting oil on top of acrylic.
Gotcha.
We can paint oil on top of acrylic. We can't paint acrylic on top of oil. Fun fact.
Good to know that.
Good to know that now all you who came today know.
Are all
other people don't know.
Are all watercolor palettes the same? Are the colors in them the same?
But all these half pans. Okay, so this is a really cool thing. I'll show them real quick. So all these half pans are replaceable and exchangeable. So once you have one of these setups, you can get the little mini brushes. Honestly, what I carry in here now is my Voyage brush, which I've had forever because I like that. It's its own cap, so it protects the tip of your brush.
Ooh, yeah.
So that's why I switched out this. Is that I like the Voyage better. There's these half pans. And you can change those to any colors that you like, so you can customize these however you like. The Cotmans are not, the big step ups, but they're really rather nice. I mean, for the purposes of most of what you're going to do, if you find you love watercolor, absolutely fall into the Daniel Smith Golden Holbein world.
Yeah.
Fall in hard. It's super fun. Great community watercolor.
Yeah.
Great community. And lots of really fun stuff out there.
Yeah, and don't feel like you have to jump up to that perfect, to the super professional stuff. Just getting yourself some good paper, some good brushes, and a reasonable starter set of watercolors that you're not fighting.
Yeah, I would get a brush at least this, because the brush can mess with you.
Yep.
If the brush releases too much, okay, so a watercolor brush should pull the watercolor in really easily. Like when you touch the tip, like when this is misted and primed, what I should be able to do is pull my brush in. It should wick like a pen.
You can show it on palette cam.
Okay. You know what I mean? So it should, I got to prime it here.
Oh.
Because I hadn't primed it ahead of time. So it should always be carrying the perfect, ideal amount of water. So ideally what should be happening is I should be able to come up with my brush. See, can you see it pull in? You see it soak up the paint?
Yeah, a little bit there. Oh, yeah, you can see it.
Okay. And then it should release it.
Okay.
The paper then should wick it back out. And it should always be carrying the ideal amount of water.
And that thicker paper really holds that water better.
Yeah, it does. The paper also, so it's an exchange. What you want to be doing is pulling the pigment into the brush, releasing it into the paper. So the paper has to have enough pull into it, where it's pulling the pigment from your brush
Gotcha.
into the paper. And you want a brush that will let you do beautiful little tiny lines like this and, you know, still work. See how this just goes from a nice...
Gotcha.
And it just holds. By the way, in acrylic brushes, you kind of think about it because they do wear out a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Acrylic's harder brushes.
I'll get you
Just as
back
harder
over here,
brushes.
dude.
Canvas is hard. A watercolor brush, you can have just forever. Forever. So you don't ever have to feel bad about that investment. And you don't have to do crazy stuff to take care of it. You just use like a really nice brush soap and it's good. And you can, they're really cool. All right, so I'm just taking my burnt sienna. See, these are the colors that you have in your acrylic palette, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just taking my burnt sienna and there's my burnt umber. And I'm going to take the burnt umber and create a shadow underneath the hair next to the face. How is this working for you guys? Is this
love
working
this.
as a
Oh, yeah.
process for learning this?
There's this format everyone's very much enjoying.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So.
I like this format too because I can be like, as if I found a way to be chattier than I was before.
Now, after this, are we going to do it in acrylic?
Yes.
Oh, good.
We're finishing this whole baby today.
Oh, good. Okay.
And then you're finishing this whole baby at home. And then you're
Yes.
going to post it in the Big Art Quest.
Yes.
And I appreciate you guys in the Big Art Quest. I know it's been crazy in there. And we are trying to keep those posts to Big Art Quest related things for 2016, 2017. And it's just because of this, because I'm trying to see how y'all are doing.
And don't forget to go out to the website for the Big Art Quest pages. There's huge resources out there. TheArtSherpa.com/BAQ. You'll find all of the Big Art Quest pages, links to to all the traceables, the support materials, the videos, no matter what platform they're on, and it's all those resources are available for you there.
So I'm gonna probably do the eye in an underlying green, and I'm gonna do an interesting thing. I think I'm like, oh, let's get some green over here. So I'm doing the sap green and the cad yellow deep to create a very bright green, and I'm just putting that kind of color into the eye. Right? Because this is sort of like an acrylic ground in a sense, in that this is color that's underneath my paint that's going to be glowing through. And it's really fun when you mix acrylic and watercolor because people struggle to know how you did what you did, if that makes sense. Because it's just, watercolor does a certain kind of thing and acrylic does a certain kind of thing. And so when you mix them up together, it creates a really interesting thing. I'm sure you're going to ask this, and I'll probably put it in an FAQ, but basically it's like this on framing. Do you need to varnish? In general, you do not need to varnish watercolors, but this is multimedia. There are now, Golden has put out some varnishes for watercolor paper as it is. But however, generally you do works on paper behind glass. And if you use any acrylic medium in your multimedia pieces, just make sure that you've got matte or air, like a matte board, so that whatever it is, the piece isn't touching the glass. You want some air circulation there. This is the thing you might not know, that now you know. I'm putting in the colors. I'm defining the hair here. I'm getting the burnt, and I'm coming around this outside edge because I'm like, I want to kind of talk about the flow of the hair.
No,
it's a very decorative piece, so I can do that.
Watercolor pencils, are those okay to be using in this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, pens, anything.
Now, is there such thing as heavy-bodied watercolor paint?
I think what you're thinking of. Now there are now. Daniel Smith, I'm not sure if Golden does. I'm not sure if Holden is. I know Daniel Smith has gels and mediums for watercolors now. So this is changing that whole world up. There's watercolor that comes from a tube. There's watercolor that is in sticks, in pens and pencils. And then there's the dried watercolor that's in pans.
Interesting.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but you could buy a test sheet of Daniel Smith. They have these often at the art supply stores, and sometimes you can find them online, where they have a dab of every color on there that's dried from their fluid, but they constantly reactivate, right? So you can try a whole bunch of very expensive, nice watercolors for about $10.
Ooh.
Just a weird little thing you might not know, that I like.
I have play here.
That I tell you about. I'm sorry, I'm a little coffeeed up today.
It's okay.
Can you
this
tell?
is a good one. This is a good show to be here.
And I like this teaching format. I'm on my gel mat. Oh, I'm dabbing with some more green because I'm thinking, oh, this needs some stuff. And I'm saying, I'm mixing these two greens. See me mix these two greens. Now the paint is somewhat dry. I'm kind of glazing now. So glazing is when all the paint is dry and you take wet paint over the dry paint. And what it is all watercolor is transparent. So it's like looking through cellophane at what's underneath. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So the color underneath informs the color on top of it. Now I'm thinking.
You're thinking.
And then I said, I should turn this to the side.
Which
Because I'm going to blow some paint. Because I was like, it's going to be easier to blow watercolor than it is going to be to blow this acrylic. So I'm taking my ultramarine and I'm really loading it with some water and I'm coming along the hair. Do I mind that this is going to bleed into the hair? I do not. I'm going to just kind of come along the edge of the hair and I'm just making sure there's enough fluids that when I come in here with a straw, it's going to blow really, really easily. So here's me going with the straw. Oh, look at me. Blowing paint. So I do this with my kids, right? But this is actually a technique I used in my fine art. I just think it's really... What's wonderful is you have a lot of control over the blow, so you can really, really be very expressive. Pretty much just wherever you're pointing the straw is where the paint's going to go.
Now, could you do this with acrylic paint as well?
Yep. You can, on paper, do washes with acrylic paint. It does not underbind until the paper is completely sealed.
Ah.
So while the paper's raw and you're painting, you can do all these techniques with acrylic on paper and have it be fine.
Gotcha. So there were
don't be stressed about that.
There were a lot of people asking to see. They was like, "Hey, could you give us a time lapse of this, maybe on Facebook?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think we could probably put a little time lapse together of this video because they'd like to just see the
You like?
yeah." So I like absolutely. We'll see if we can get all get some of that put together.
So I'm just blowing those little bits out, and
Ooh.
you can see where it hits the wet spots. That it does. Oh, really cool thing! If you can do string gel on top of this, I'll have to show you that another day.
So we have a lot of our community loves to blow inks, especially India Bombay inks.
You can use inks with this. You can throw your inks in here. Absolutely, you can swap to inks here.
Yeah,
Have a blast.
that's cool to know.
Have a total blast. Just don't get oils in this.
So that's we've got just a wonderful crowd
There
of
we go.
people out here. I just wanted to say hi to everybody who's out here. We've got all of our moderators and all of our community
I
out
like that
saying
blend
hello.
there where that hit and it hit and it blended. I like to say, I'm sorry. Hi,
Oh no,
moderators
you're
and
okay.
community.
You're in the groove. I get
just
to see
being
the
a
chat
big
coming up
goof.
here, and it's just so nice. There's just this nice fuzzy glowy feeling from all of the cool community who's coming here to hang out with us today. So, thank you guys.
I like it. I feel like I'm answering more questions today.
I feel like I'm asking as many questions, maybe.
Like you're asking more. I feel like I'm
don't
answering.
know.
I'm making a gray here. I'm using the burnt umber and again the ultramarine to make it gray because it makes a great gray. And I'm just making sure that my eye has a bit of that on there before I come in and paint on it. Because you don't want a big, bright, glowing white eye. That's, like we've talked about eyes in the quest. Don't want that
No.
unless we want it. You don't want it unless you want it, right?
Yes, that's sort of true.
You don't want to list, but see, like, I'm not worried. Like, I like the edges to soften out. I like that. Now I'm splattering some paint. I have a brush that's pretty well loaded with water. And this splatter, not as messy as acrylic splatter. You just sort of tap the brush, just tap, tap, tap. It just has to have enough water in it and pigment, and then it'll tap down, and it will blend out and soften, and it's really lovely. And I want that on her face, because I don't want to have to do it as much with acrylic. I've given myself a thumbs up to say, hey,
Nope.
that's what we did. And I guess we're
repeated.
starting over.
We did.
No,
We
we're
just-
not. He's going to. So now we're kind of ready to move on to the acrylic segment of this. I'm going to have another sip of my coffee.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to put out my paint.
Okay, I'm gonna flip over there and see what you got.
Let's see what we've got. Now, I probably will use glazing today. I've got a mix of paint here. Today's a mixy mix.
Now I'm over here in
I'm putting out Dogs in Purple,
okay.
and it's friend Phthalo Blue. I could probably do ultramarine on this, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna add that cap back on, all the way down on these self-cleaning caps. I'm gonna put out some Phthalo Green Blue shade. If you're painting economy or student paints, it won't tell you shade. It's always the correct one that I'm using. I always use the one that's the default in student. And if I change it, I'll tell you. Does that make sense? I think John walked out. So I'm asking you guys if it made sense, so I guess you'll have to tell me in the comments after. Tell me in the comments what you think of this format. If you like it, if it's helpful. This is the cap I can't open. I don't know about you, but I drop the golden caps more than any other cap. Like I drop them and lose them and I'm under the table constantly looking for them. Got some cadmium yellow. I don't want hue, I want real cad.
Real cad.
You guys use hue, saves you money. I use real cad because I like the glow. I want my glow, my glowy glow. All right. And of course, my Quin Magenta. All the quinacridone colors are pretty awesome sauce. Just saying. You know, and I have fluid paint white, fluid paint black here, and I have some gesso, so I'm pretty covered on all that. I'm going to put out, this is the old label, the Golden Acrylic Glazing Liquid Gloss. Love this stuff. Slows down the drying time of my paint and lets me glaze. I am not using any of my watercolor brushes with my acrylics, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are going to be put aside for safety. I mean, it's not like your brush will explode, but you know, your watercolor brushes will last forever if you just keep them in watercolor.
Yeah.
So those investments
Now before you go
will
dipping,
hang with you.
before you dip your brush there,
You know,
before
I dip my brush
today
is,
I believe, June 1st.
Is it?
Today's June 1st.
Oh, hi guys.
Do you know
June 1st.
Do you know what makes June 1st special?
No.
It's our friend Trent's birthday.
Happy birthday, Trent! No. Are you going to...
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Trent. You got stunt hands appearances. Canton, Ohio! Thank you, Canton, Ohio. We love you.
We love you.
All right. Oh, and now I get to go to my wonderful brush bucket and pick a brush and decide what I'm going to start laying in, which is probably going to be her skin tone, I imagine. So I'm going to grab a little diamond head spatula here, and I'm going to just make a basic skin tone over here. I'm going to take a little of my yellow ochre and some of my quinacridone, making a base, you know, pink. I might add a little cad yellow to it. There's obviously we've done the how to make skin tones quest, so there's so many skin tones. You make her any skin tone you want. You don't worry about it. You do what you got to do to make yourself happy and to paint your world. Green, that's cool. I love that day when we were doing that long live paint and I had green skin and blue hair.
Well, I could do that again right now.
So good. It's so good. All right, so that's my base. I may, because I don't want this to dry out on me, I'm going to add a little, like a dollop of this. Not only will extend it a little bit, but it'll slow it from drying down. And I don't want it to dry. I don't want it to dry. And then I can take a little of this burnt here. That can be a shadow color.
Ooh.
Adding a little blue to it.
Another interesting fact. Today
Fun
is,
fact?
from our community. Today is also Marilyn Monroe's birthday. Interesting.
Okay.
I thought that was just neat. Interesting.
I think that's neat too. I'm going to take a Bristle on number 4. And I'm going to start thinking about what I'm going to do on her face.
So you're going to go acrylic over this?
Yeah, go acrylic right over this.
Oh, okay, cool.
I thought, so
you're just going crazy.
This is a number 4 bright. This
Okay.
is a synthetic filament. There are no natural hairs. The reason is, as you saw with the watercolors, hairs pull in water, don't they? And we want this to hold water, but exactly the right amount of water. I'm going to pull out a little of my base skin tone and mix it into white. And I'm going to start just putting in some highlights to my face. So I'm thinking, where would I have highlights? I'm going to want a highlight here above the cheek. You're going to find when you're painting acrylic over paper that the paper super pulls in your acrylic until you get enough acrylic on it for the paper to seal. Things you might not know, but now you do. So that's what we're doing. We're just getting that blend in. And what I find is the watercolor study underneath really, really helps me out. so I can start really sort of expressively dealing with the face. All right?
Mm-hmm.
We know we've got generally a pretty high highlight up here. We're going to have flowers and things up here very expressively, you know. But it's real easy for me to paint a lot of this in simply because I've got the watercolor layout in already.
Ooh, I'm going to have to scoot over a RoboCam. I think it's a little to the right, I think, today.
It is?
Yeah, someone's going to come scoot it over a minute. So.
Okay. I'm grabbing my shadow color, right? And I'm using a lot of glaze because I don't want to put a lot of pigment on here. I don't want to lose, you know, the lightness of what I've got going on. I'm just glazing right over it. So it's really interesting to do these glazes over the paper because they'll tone and tint, but also leave some of that watercoloriness there. And that's kind of nice. And it's what you want when you want it. So I'm grabbing a little glaze. So I grabbed a little of my base color with some white. I'm going to want to have a little bit of a highlight there. I'm just shading out the planes of my face. I find that I like on the inside corner of my eye, I'm going to want just a little of my lightest color kind of coming underneath here and up the lid, and of course up here at the brow bone. You can do the teardrops or not. That's really up to you at the end. I have been finding that you guys are not as into the tears.
Oh.
They're not into it. Our community, not as into the tears. They're like, I'm not into it. Which I think is totally okay. And that's something you should think is like whenever I'm doing a painting and you're painting with me, you still have to live with the painting that you're making. And so, you know, paint stuff that makes you happy. Don't paint stuff that takes away your happiness. So I'm grabbing my, you can see how having my base skin tone here lets me lighten it with white or darken it with this color pretty easily. And you can just use your favorite skin tone recipe here as you see fit. I'm gonna definitely increase that shadow there. You come here in the eye. Come on in. There'll be makeup and things in the eye here, but I'm just kind of like thinking about that, the plane. I'm gonna come on the outside edge here with this dark color to the temple and just shade this down. Again, you know, we're not painting observationally, we're painting emotionally. Look how nice this scumble is. Like when you scumble over paper, it just blends out softly. So painting over paper is a very different experience than painting over canvas. I kind of enjoy it. Happy to share it with y'all.
Now, what is a ground?
What?
What is a ground?
A ground is the preparation that you're painting on. So gesso is a ground. Absorbent ground is a ground. You know.
What's that crazy metal oxide that I like?
Richeson iron oxide is not a ground, but it's really cool.
Yeah. That's
You bring it up a lot. You really like it.
Because it's so neat.
I'm grabbing some of my darker brown and I'm just, you know, I'm just coming into finding that part of the cheek. See, I'm just making that happen there. Now, for sure, we're gonna have a little shadow under the chin, I would think.
Now, before you do that, if you could give me 2 seconds, because I'm gonna.
Yeah, I can give you all the seconds you want.
Well, why don't you turn around and give them a chatty chat? Because I'm gonna slide RoboCam around. Hold on.
Okay, hi guys, how you doing? So hopefully you're liking this. You know, feeling the paper. The paper is going to pull paint in differently. Again, as it sort of finishes, as it does that, you know, it's going to start painting more and more like your canvas as the layers of acrylic seal up on it.
Okay, that's probably pretty good.
But you're going to find you have a real loose expressive result that you might not normally get, that you might like.
Now,
I got to get my little shadow here on my nose.
Would gesso prevent the paper from pulling the acrylic? You know, like a layer of titanium white acrylic?
Okay, no, actually, because gesso is not an isolation coat.
Okay.
Gesso is a ground, so it's a very porous preparation. It's like mostly chalk in its base. You can look up everybody's formulation. But basically, you know, it's this ground pigment and chalk. And so things that are underneath will bleed up into gesso, right? And things that are on top can go down. But, you know, it doesn't separate the surface that you're painting on from the paint. So
Gotcha.
you got to do an isolation coat if you want to make sure whatever's on the surface does not get to your paint.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's important. It's probably mostly often non-important. I'm going to, I think I'll get more glaze because I want it to be a little bit transparent. I'm glazing. I'm going to kind of define this little shadow like we like to under the nose, right?
Yeah.
And then here along this nostril. So we're just creating these shapes and shadows. Fun to do. We'll come back with highlights later. And make it more interesting. So you can dry brush right over the paper, and the paper's tooth really lends itself to that. You know? So don't feel like you can't, because you can. Dry brushing down here, and definitely want to define this a bit. Like you do. Like you do. I love saying that. I don't know why. I don't know what's with me that I love saying that so much. Coming and getting in my base coat, right? My base skin mixture, getting my white, pulling that out. Getting my glaze. Just making sure everything is sort of blended and seamless and belongs together. And I'm going to come right here to this outer nostril and maybe right underneath there. Outside of the lip. Outside of the lip. Maybe even lighter on the outside of the lip. And one thing that you don't think about, but you can kind of create a little highlight there at the divot. And then we're going to come back and really define the shadows at the nose. I'm going to rinse out my brush, though. I'm going to do a cool thing. I think I'm going to grab... Nope. Here it is. So I'm going to grab, this is a number 6, and it's a Cambridge. And what it is, I like the stiff bristle. I could do my scumble brushes. There's a lot of things that I could do. I just want something I can scumble with really nicely. And this is a mix of bristle and synthetic filament. So it'll soften, but it won't over soften.
Now,
and I'm going to take a little of my quinacridone and mix it into my skin tone.
Now you're just painting right over the watercolor that we
just
saw you doing
right
earlier.
over the watercolor. That's how this is done. I'm going to create a glaze here.
Now it's still attached to the watercolor block?
It's still attached to this watercolor block.
Gotcha. So you're just painting right on the watercolor paper.
Right on the block.
Okay.
I'm going to, I think I'm going to add this little glaze here of this color. See how we're scumbling that in? But I'm using a glaze. It's not too bright. I'm going to come along the temple on this outside edge. Just glazing a little bit of a blush right over the surface of the paper. And it's dry. And it's just, see how much the paper is showing through? Not fun? Well, it's fun for me. I don't know if it's fun for you. I enjoy it. So I'm sharing with you a way I like it. So I'm just scumbling some of that color here because I like noses to have a little bit of color. Like everybody to seem like they're somehow windswept and outdoors.
Now, why did you choose to mix acrylic and watercolor in this piece?
In these pieces?
Why would you,
This is a whole series of pieces because they have a different nature. You see this bit right here?
Yeah.
This is something that you get with watercolor. This loose, childlike, expressive playfulness, right? And sometimes acrylic tends to be like this, the sheer act of will of layering, right? When you contrast these two medias against each other, you get very surprising and exciting results, I think, to the eye.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what I was playing with and what I was going for. That's what I was going for.
You did it.
That's what I did.
Okay. So you
I'm
just
going to
like
put out a
mixing-
little black paint, too.
And you like mixing those medias.
I do. I'm going to put out some black gesso. You guys know I like black gesso. Whoa, it went into my skin tone. That's fine. So I'm going to come here and get a little of my... I'm taking my dark skin tone into my blue. I'm going to make a little bit of a shadow. under the nose. It's going to come down a little bit. There we go. And maybe just a little of it right here. This is just this little shadow that happens on the nose. A little bit at the, a little bit under here. Now get your, I'm going to grab a little bit of my black. I'm going to come right into this nostril. Just pull a little bit of black. Isn't that crazy? And then it just pops.
It is. So Luna has been over here co-piloting with me. Yeah,
Has she? Hi,
she
Luna.
loves to watch, and she says that she wanted to let you know that you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you, baby.
She likes to
Sometimes in the
watch.
middle of my paintings, I have little panic attacks. I'm like, I'm going to be live on YouTube, just falling on my face. I'm going to dry brush really lightly. Dry brush really lightly. I just want to define that shadow a little bit. Decoratively, still there, kind of defining it. Let's see, we're making some headway. We're doing good. We're really actually, I think I'm laying this in easier this time than I did the first time. I think the first time it was like this act of like will to get this piece in, but I was in a really weird place. Truth be truthin'. All right, I'm going to get a little of my burnt sienna. I'm going to add a smidge of my black to it.
Yeah.
I want to darken it up. I'm going to come up to where my eyebrow is. I might add a little glaze to it. And I'm going to just make these sort of soft strokes that are uneven and expressive about hair, right? Just very slightly over this space. I don't want to draw like an line here. I want there to just be sort of softness of value and just so you can line up to this part of the nostril or even the corner of the eye depending on how you think the person has plucked. But today, she's the full inside nostril there. Just something you might not know. I'm going to take this dark color that I just made. I'm going to go ahead and come right here to the tip of the nose. Just want to add that shadow there. Maybe another little bit here. And just something happening here on that. Defining those very strong events as they might possibly happen. Loving that. I'm going to work in some hair now. And she's a brunette, so it's kind of crazy because I did such light colors in the watercolor, but I'm going to be layering. And, you know, just have fun with this. I'm not going to use this brush.
Not going to use that brush?
I'm going to use this brush, which is a number 6 Bright.
Okay.
I get this wet. And I'm going to pull in a little of my burnt sienna and a little of my black. Pulling that in. Might even get some glaze. I'm going to come right underneath here. And I want this hair under the face here to actually be much more in shadow this time. I felt like I did so much of a curtain on her that I didn't love. So one of the things that you'll find is when you paint a really old painting and you repaint it, you're going to fix some things. You're going to be like, oh no, I didn't like that. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm fixing some things that I just didn't feel the first time.
Yeah.
Even though this is still a very expressive piece. I'm going to get some just burnt and maybe, interestingly enough, add a little quinacridone and yellow to it. And come up here. Just streaking this in. Letting the watercolor show underneath. Just having some fun. I'll pull all this pigment. You'll find if you do can't say it, a fluid mixture.
Yes.
That it will soak right into the paper until the paper's sealed. So right up into the point the paper is sealed, the paper is really going to pull in all the moisture from your brush. This would be a terribly difficult painting to do a soft brush with, unless you had really fluid acrylics.
Ah,
But
because you're trying to do it on a watercolor paper.
now, if you have heavy body, you need a stiff brush for this. You need it. It's not even a negotiable thing. If you have soft body paints like Liquitex Basics, or I mean, even though they're technically not, but they perform like a soft body glaze, you might not need as hard of a brush.
Gotcha.
So I'm just pulling in that shadow. And now I'm going to come here. I may have to pull out some more burnt sienna. I'm going to add a little of my yellow ochre to it. And just flow some of this hair down. Like you do.
Yes.
Like you do. And you can keep any part of this painting that feels super important to you. Don't feel like you can't. If there's like some little passage, like I'm going ahead and going over this, but if this was really important to you, keep any part of the painting that's important to you. One of the big mistakes that I feel like mixed media artists make when I see them work is they paint out their best bits. Right? In the layering and layering and layering up of textures and events. Sometimes it's hard to recognize where your most surprising, extraordinary bit is. So if there's something when you look at it, it gives you a feeling, think about preserving it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of way you start to develop voice in art, is recognizing and preserving those bits that you find particularly important and not taking them out.
Right.
Which I'm going to do right here. My whole point of that explanation was to explain to you why we're not going to get into that bit right there. I didn't find the blue bleed in to be important, but I do find the rest of this to be important, and so I'm not taking it out. Because I think the piece will be better to keep it.
Gotcha.
So those are wonderful decisions that as you're doing pieces that you can be like, hey, I'm just on the edge here. I'm brushing up into the hair. I'm brushing up just with my yellow ochre. Has a little burnt sienna on the brush. And I'm letting this pull into the paper. Hopefully this is enjoyable for everybody. You can see I'm going here. So we're darkening up her hair. But again, we're going to leave this interesting little bit right here because I think it's really delightful and important, and I don't want to lose it. I'm going to come into my burnt sienna. I'm going to just pull a little of the value here. This is just my burnt sienna, and I'm blending it wet into wet. Paint's still wet. It's letting me have a soft edge. And I might allow a little of this to come up here just to say that it's here. Though we're going to have a bunch of flowers down here. You can go ahead and take a little of your black and burnt sienna. Just make sure that, you're creating a brunette hair. Though these days she could have like blue ombre in her tips, right?
So now you could put some watercolor over gesso.
Yes. In a little bit.
A little bit.
The thing is, gesso has a acrylic polymer in it, so it doesn't really take watercolor. It's not really porous enough. The reason they made it an absorbent ground is that traditional gesso wasn't really porous enough for watercolor. It kind of does it, but it can still lift. It's sort of a problem. But I mean, you're experimenting, so be playful. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right? Like you can do a little of it probably in some stucco, but again, there's a lot of polymer in it, so it's not really pulling in like it is on the paper.
Gotcha. Okay.
On paper, it's really pulling in. Let's give her some sun highlights. So I've got this mixture here. There's a little brown. I'm going to add a little quinacridone in there. It's a little oranged up, I think. Maybe even a little cad yellow. Maybe a little cad yellow and quinacridone. There we go. A little glaze. And I'm just going to come right here. Look at this. See, and I'm skipping on the edge of my brush, painting the shape of the hair, not each individual hair. I think that was something that I did the last time that I didn't really enjoy. Maybe a little bit of that brushed up into this hair. See, we're just brushing a little motion up into the hair. These are nice things. I'm pretty happy with that right there, so I'm going to let that have a moment. I've kept this part here, which is important, and I will probably even make adjustments in my florals around here to keep this little passage, just so you know my intention. I'm going to pop in a real fast mouth, and then, and I'm probably going to do that with Dog's Purple and my quinacridone. I like to say she's a winter, so she can wear these colors. So I'm going to come back where I had the watercolor and kind of enforce that dark shadow. You can wipe off and just glaze if you want. See how I'm just glazing? And another thing is I really worked the lips really heavy last time, but I really enjoy the watercolor in this glaze. Like I'm going to just play these two things off of each other.
Oh, yeah.
To maybe get some softness here a bit. We'll see how it works. We'll see how we feel about it, right? Get a little more purple in here. Come up in this crease. Pull that down. This is very soft. Brushstroke soft, pigment soft, glaze is heavy. Just letting a lot of what's happening on the paper come through. You know, and you're going to have to look at that and be like, what do I like there? What do I not like? I'm going to definitely put some of this under here. So I'm telling a similar story, but I'm just doing it better than I did the first time. And that happens. Sometimes you do. I'm going to make a little kind of pocket. I'm going to take her darker skin tone. Oh, that's too green. What happened there? That's so green. I don't want that. That was crazy green. Probably could have gotten away with it too. I'm just looking for sort of a dark value. There we go. Just a little. Okay. Yeah, 'cause I don't want green. I'm going to. There we go. See that nice? There. I like that. Just defining that space. You know, thinking about it. Let's take a little of our quinacridone and a little yellow and some white and some glaze. Pull this up here. There we go. I like that. A little more white. Just right here.
Let me zoom in on
Nice.
that a little.
Okay. Having fun. Have fun. Let's do some eye stuff, right?
Okay.
So let's see how she's looking. All right, she's coming together.
Yeah?
I think she's a little bit better structured
Yeah.
than what I had done the first time. So this is also kind of another side thing, like when you go back and visit old art and you come back and you redo it. You're always going to be informed by the things that you have done before, and it's always going to be like transformative.
Yes.
There's just no way to avoid it. Because the part of your brain is like, when you guys like look at last year's painting, when you repaint it, you're going to repaint it differently. Just from year to year. It's just going to happen. All right, I'm going to work out some eye stuff here. I'm going to take a little of my yellow oxide and my phthalo green. Let's come in and think about her green-eyed girl. So I've got this little green here. You know, I'm going to grab a little of the yellow for the inside corner. This is a lot like, it's interesting to me sometimes, like it just reminds me a lot of doing makeup.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually, here's an interesting thing, you can make your paint quite fluid. And paint right on the paper with it, something you might not know you can do. See that?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get some white. We're going to just make sure we're blending the inside of this lid. This reminds me so much of the owls.
Yeah.
In process. You know, so I've got that happening here. And I definitely want to take a little of the phthalo green and phthalo blue. I'm going to get a little glaze here. Make sure I'm working that. Wipe off extra if you're overwhelmed by your amount of paint. I'm going to come right back here and I'm going to just glaze that. It's going to give me a nice blend right on the paper. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So I'm just softly, this is very softly pressing. Well, let's come around the back side of this eye here. Just a little bit. We might do drops. We might.
Might?
Yeah. Probably I will because it's in the reference photo, but you guys can elect not to. So I'm rinsing this out. And I'm going to get a little of my phthalo blue. And I think it's my burnt sienna. I want it to still be blue but grayed out.
Yeah.
Right? So grayed out blue. And I'm going to get some white. And glaze. I'm just going to glaze through here.
Now, as I'm
going to blend this into the brow a bit.
I have to remind everybody, because we haven't reminded everybody to do the social stuff recently.
Oh, goodness. Share, like, comment, and subscribe. How's everybody liking this?
They're
Is
loving
everyone
this
still
format.
even here?
Yeah, they
Is
think
this
this
like the
format is
craziest thing I've ever done.
They think this is really, really cool. Okay. They really dig this format. They think this is a great way of presenting this. So they'd love to see this more of this. And but you guys don't forget to share this. Hit that little share button. Comment on it. Leave the notes for us to know what you think.
Yeah, I read the comments, and then I want to know what everyone has to think after the video. And if you guys don't say anything, I'm like, oh, they didn't like it.
Mm-hmm. And definitely go out there and upload your picture on the website so we can see it, or on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or wherever your favorite home of social media sharing may be.
I was just on Instagram today.
You know what? And pictures of your kitchen refrigerator are perfectly viable, because that's where we display lots of art in our house too.
I just grabbed some fruit sienna. Someone should secretly work with me to make makeup palettes, huh?
We can make watercolor that looks like a makeup palette.
I'm just blending that here and just enjoying that, right? I'm just going to enjoy that. Now we got to put our eyeball in, and one of the things we want to make sure is that we have an inside lid, which I like to take the quinacridone and a little of the yellow ochre. My white. And, oh wait, smidge of black, because I want to gray it out. You want it a little grayed out. I come inside to the tear duct, just using the corner. This is just a #1 bright. You can use a little detail round. It's all good, whatever you use. You just want something you have control over. Mm-hmm. I'm going to add, if you'll notice, I'm going to dip in my paint. Instead of dragging off the extra, I'm going to bring it over here and swirl around. See how wet that is?
Yes.
But that's going to work really well for me on my paper.
lots of people are sending you love on your hair and headband. They think that's pretty, and just general loves and hugs to you because you're
Oh,
awesome.
well, I'll take general loves and hugs.
But they love your hair and your headband. And they think you look very fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I stole my headband
You
from
on
my girls.
fleek.
Am I? That would be really surprising if I was. I'm just making sure my makeup is translating into the eye here. I'm taking that bright green and I'm blending it down into this dark green. Just making it dramatic. I tend to like a more dramatic eye makeup than my community, I've noticed.
Drama in the eye.
I have put a lot of drama on it. And I love that you guys are like, y'all wear too much makeup on your painting.
Yeah.
I like, so we're in the quest and you guys do the stuff, you're like, yeah.
You have
I'm going to
like,
do a little red at the corner here because I think you were like.
you got like twiggy eyes.
I do. I think I must because that's the feedback I'm feeling.
You're channeling, the 70s fashion industry.
Apparently, I'm going to add a little bit of, so grade this just a little bit more. And put this here. Grade this just a little bit more and put this over here. Crazy stuff that we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to grade even a little more because we've got to cast that shadow right under the lid. You want to cast a shadow right under the lid. You can get a glaze if you need it.
Gotcha.
It can help. So you can do it in a water wash. I think it's important to cast the shadow in the original, which is such a relief to me. One of the worst things about artwork selling is that later as you get better, you don't want to go visit it. You don't want to see it at your friend's house. You're like, can I switch that painting out? I'll give you a new one.
This has happened to her on more than one occasion. She'll be at a family member's house, and there'll be a painting up on the wall, and she'll be like, we're going to replace that. And so she'll actually bring over a painting and swap it out on the wall.
And then they fight me for it.
And then they're like, no, but we like the other one, but we like this new one better. We like them both. Can't we keep them both? And she's like, no. And then she takes them home and burns them.
Okay, that might have actually happened for real. So I've just got my quinacridone and my white, and I'm just trying to create, that sort of highlight that you get in the tear duct.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit along here. We're going to come in with a teeny tiny little brush and work some details because I want these eyes to pop.
Yeah.
Poppity pop. So I've got, this is essentially going to be like a number 1 round. And I'm going to get a little black into my grade color here. And I just want to make sure that where the eyeball and the lid line are touching, that we've got a nice little shadow going. I also want to shade the corner here. I'm going to get my glaze. Just shade in the corner. Relaxing, hanging out with my community, shade in the corner.
Making eyes. Making eyes at each other. Isn't that what they said in high school? Are you making eyes at each other?
I don't know.
And you're like, what do you mean, coach?
Coach, what was going on in your life?
Well, coach taught history.
Huh?
Or you didn't have a coach who taught, like, history class or something?
No.
And he always talked weird? See, I had coach masters who taught history.
No. History teacher taught history.
No, see, I think that in Texas they make, because they make all the coaches teach other classes, too, not just coach football. So they inevitably get, all my coaches were in history class or, something like that. And so, I don't know.
I just added
coach
some
taught
water
history.
so I can blend
It's
this
funny.
out. I'm going to come back with a lot of white. I just want to make sure that I've got that shadow at that lid line.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't, it's just not going to pull together. I'm going to get my quinacridone that I have over here and a little of my yellow. And just some white. There's still some black pigment on my brush, so this is grayed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can you see how that's slightly grayed?
I do.
See it against the quinacridone there. It's just
It's
a little
very.
grayed out. And I'm just doing this on the inner lid line. right here. And now I'm going to come back with just some white. But it's slightly off white, right? Just make sure that this is white enough to... But still the shadow.
Yes.
Still the shadow. And I'll probably glaze one final shadow here. I just want to just tell you that that's probably going to happen.
More. I'm going to put on one more layer of glaze, guys, just so you know.
Huh?
You're warning them. I got to glaze it up more.
I'm going to glaze it up more. That is
gonna get more
super
glaze.
happening. What I'm trying to do is make sure that this line here is refined, and I'm basically, this is, even though it's fantasy, this is still an orb in a socket, and I have to respect that fact. If I don't respect that fact, things will go wrong. All right, I'm getting some green and some yellow. I'm coming right here. On the outside edge, this is my number 1 bright. I'm just wanting a small brush that I have some control over. And I'm taking on this color part, I'm going to have an outer ridge that's dark. I have, since I've been paying eyes, a bunch of eye doctors, eye health specialists have written me and told me all the different health conditions I have been painting with my eyes. Just in case. Like you do.
Like you do. Like you do.
Like I do, apparently.
Like you do.
I'm going to get some black.
What are you getting? All right.
And a little bit of white, because I don't want this to be totally... And I've got the green in here, which I kind of like.
And I'm gonna give a big art hug to Esmeralda.
Hi, Esmeralda.
Because she says that she loves it. She actually hasn't been painting anything in such a long time due to her illness, but she's been watching your videos for a long time, and she wanted to thank you for making it back. And I wanted to thank you for making me get back into it. Lots of love. And
oh, you're so welcome, and I hope you're feeling better and better, Esmeralda. Like every day is just a healthier day than the day before.
yeah. And
that's the goal.
Thank you for picking the brush up and trying it, because it takes a tremendous amount of bravery to, overcome that blank canvas and just try it. And, like so many people, they say once they start, man, it just keeps brushing. You just keep brushing.
I took some burnt sienna and added
Okay.
some green while John was quoting Dory.
I said brushing. Just keep brushing. Unless,
Saying.
there's
have
no.
to
I
work
like
this out.
Dory.
Huh?
I like Dory. Have a short attention span. Blues are my favorite color.
It's so funny. Just making sure my lid's here. Right, I've got that basis for the eye in now. And I'm going to come in with some yellow ochre. I'm going to start putting in this very interesting hazily green eye. Like you do. So this is where you got to think that this is clear, and on light eyes the light shines through it like a marble. So that's what we're really always painting, is this sort of marble effect. And the paper is really nice for this. I'm going to let the yellow come right over this black. I'll come put it back later, but I just want it glazed back a little bit. Like you do.
Like you do.
Like you do. Like I do. It's true, I do it. I'm going to get some yellow and some white.
I'm a button pusher.
You're
not
a button
brusher.
pusher.
I'm not a brusher.
I'm going to add that right here. I could just work eyes all day.
I know. And we watch you do it. You
just be like all day.
But see, I like it. So I'm gonna zoom in more on the eye.
Okay.
See.
So,
okay.
and I definitely want to get some brown into this, so I'm grabbing some brown on the tip of my brush. And let's put some brown in there. Let's tell some brown into that story. Isn't that starting to happen? I love it when it starts to happen. When an eye starts to feel really unique and totally special. And Just making sure. Sometimes I have to get off center to paint so John can show you guys.
Well, you're okay.
And
I
then
got camera moved over.
lopsided in my painting.
But I moved a camera, so you
Oh,
can
did
you can
you?
yeah. So I swung it to the left. Someday RoboCam's actually going to be a full like I'm going to put treads on him and he's going to walk around like Johnny Five.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's my goal.
It's a good goal.
Because Johnny Five was one of the
Very,
cooler
very good
robots.
goal.
One of my favorite.
One of all of our favorites.
Go watch Short Circuit if you haven't watched it. It's awesome.
Get some green. And some yellow so you get a bright fleck.
Right up there with the
I think
last
it's fun to
Starfighter.
put flecks in of color. I think it's
Wow.
important.
That's great. I mean, like we're really close to it here, so you can really see the individual things. But as I zoom out, I'm like, you can see how,
They start to play together.
Yeah.
Can I just take some of this brown here? Now, I'm definitely going to come back with the glaze again. So I've got my black here. I'm going to add a little blue to it because I don't want it to just be black. All right. And I'm going to get some glaze. See, so it's very transparent. I'm going to come right here and start glazing this shadow in the eye.
So
What's funny?
Mo
I'm gonna
Cuts
get
was
a
like,
little more color.
you should do a red eye like Bella has in Twilight, and we can
I
call it
love
Twilight
doing
eyes.
those. You know,
They want Twilight eyes. It made me laugh.
all right. And I'm gonna come along this lid line. Interestingly enough, with a little blue, I'm gonna get my glaze to improve it. This is gonna be like my dark blue color along my lid line.
Hey, hi, Honor. Another one of our
Honor, hey girl.
Sherpettes joining us today.
All right, and definitely I want to make sure that I've got a little darkness right here at the outer corner. So if I do decide to drop, and I think I have enough paper where I can do that in watercolor or acrylic. If I have enough paper surface exposed, I can watercolor drop or acrylic drop. I'm going to come in just part of the black. I'm going to just darken. Look at that. All of it. Is this just a trip or what? Coming along the edge of the lid here.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
Oh, you got that little. There's the drama and the attitude. That little flick at the end.
Right, and a little bit right there.
That's where we say, do not mess with this eye.
Do not mess with this chick. She's having none this week.
Gonna look into the soul with that eye.
None.
Having
add a little
none
yellow
of it.
ochre to her brow.
All right.
But none. She says none, guys. None.
Talk to the eyebrow. Right?
Right?
Talk to the eyebrow.
Get a little black right here. I'm
Don't
gonna
even have to
take
hold the
that.
hand out. What'd you do?
Almost had a moment, but it worked out.
And it would have been live.
And it would have been live, but it worked out. So what I can do now is I can add some key reflections.
Mm-hmm.
And I might switch, and you can do it with your heavy body white, but sometimes I like to switch to a soft body paint. Not that much soft body paint. That's 100 times the amount I needed.
What is? The paint?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So this is laughable now.
Where are you going now? Okay, you're still
I'm
there.
going to come right here and I'm
Okay.
going to add a little reflection in the inside corner. A little bit here on the eye. And then a little bit coming along the lid line, right? And let's get a little white. It needs to be not perfectly white, but a little white. And let's make... I'm going to leave some of this. Do you see this little bit right here? It's kind of like a deep green.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leave some of it. Look at that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then maybe a couple brights right there. This tells us that there's some interesting stuff our viewer is looking at. If there's a couple, whatever's reflected in the eye is really actually about what's happening outside.
Oh.
So you can tell some interesting stories by adding reflections to the eye, and I feel like it always pulls a piece together.
Well, someone pulled in a great soapbox here for you. And I'm gonna,
Okay.
they just
super happy to deal with the soapbox because now that we get the eye, and I'm gonna put some flowers.
They just
in.
drug it right up here for me.
Boy.
They did. It's
You
awesome.
know what, man? Okay, first of all, my first girl's all purple.
She's a little Smurfy.
And super trouty mouth. I don't know. This is better. Let's do this. Okay, what's going on?
Oh, I was gonna.
Is this live? Yes.
I wonder if I can do that thing. I can go.
I'll
Whoop.
throw up this traceable. Oh.
I can go.
Ooh.
Make you all purple too.
Ooh.
There you go. There's your purple.
Yeah.
So where was the? So this is here's a soapbox for you. So we had a question here. Said that one of our community's art teachers said that dry brushing was an improper technique, and that acrylic artists should master wet into wet blending, and you should tell no difference in oil and acrylic when it's done correctly.
That's stupid.
What are your thoughts on that? So discuss.
Even mean?
Discuss.
What do I think of that? I think that teachers can be very opinionated people. I being included in that. Let me take a breath because that actually kind of made me white hot mad. I have to calm down. Yeah, I love taking those people to the easel all the time. So here's what it is. The techniques that are improper are ones that come with a result you, as the painter, don't intend. So, say you're trying to create a painting and you use a process, and in 6 months all the paint is going to fall off the canvas and you didn't mean for that to happen. That is a super improper technique. If you're trying to do wet into wet blending and you're not getting the result because you're dry brushing, then it would be an improper technique. Glazing, dry brushing, stencil, all of these are just skills that exist in a toolbox to an artist. And then there's a result. There's no reason for acrylic to copy oil painting. It's already there. Does it really well. The myth that oil painting is toxic, it's not toxic. There are beautiful products in oil. There are products that smell like potpourri in oil. It's an incredible media. And if you don't mind the drying time, it's awesome sauce, right? So why does acrylic have to pretend to be oil? Acrylic is what it is. It's fabulous. It dries quick. It mimics 20 other media beautifully. Thanks to innovations of paint companies like Holbein and Golden and Liquitex and Chevron and all these products and amazing people from around the world, you have an unlimited box of, can I get on the soapbox? Is this okay with everybody?
I think you already are.
Okay. Because seriously, and now I'm really going to say it, oil is awesome. Oil painters, love you. I'm sorry that teacher even said that because you're fantastic the way you are.
Yes.
But that's not what acrylic needs to be. That is not what acrylic's job is to be. Acrylic is a media, just like digital is a media. Digital should not pretend to be paint. Digital is awesome.
Right.
And it should go explore the furthest reaches of what it can be, because that's art's job. And as Liquitex, as not Liquitex, but as acrylic artists, we should be exploring the furthest reaches of the stable archivalness of our media, unless we're not archival artists. Unless it is our intention that the collector experiences the paint falling off the canvas, and then we go, charged you extra
Let's
for
see
that.
if maybe this will make you feel better. So it was Ashley's teacher. Well, so Ashley teacher said that dry brushing, she called dry brushing a lazy technique. That's what it was.
I think it's lazy to try to be another media's artist. I think that's ridiculous. Come into my studio and say that. Let's see how we're doing it. I paint how I
Talk to the eyebrow.
You know what? Invariably. So you'll be in a pro critique, right, with professional artists. And 99% of them are really on point and they get what the deal is. And the deal is that we as artists are trying to create bodies of work that speak deeply to ourselves in a meaningful way and to other people. And they're very respectful. They don't weigh in on stuff that they're not invited to and stuff like that. But somebody will come in who's mid-emergent. and they got a lot of tudes spooling up there, and then they'll be like, oh, I think that's just so illustrative. Look at their piece. Generally, rendering is their weakest skill. Or they got some issue where they're not getting hung because the galleries that they want recognition from are preferring representational art right now. They make it about stuff that it's not, right? There is no lazy technique. There are lazy artists that don't produce work. Everybody else who's working and paying their bills, you can step off their front porch. Wow. It's just so misinformed.
Yep.
Right? It's just, why have tooth on a canvas? Why have a product that can brush dry? Why have a product that can be aerosolized? Why have a product that can be...
So
that's what it's for.
And as long as you're getting your intended result, you're okay.
You're okay.
Now,
there's just no mistakes. There's just results that you didn't intend. If you get a result and you like it and you can repeat it and it has an outcome that you like. So if you're pouring resin on a canvas and you know that it's going to cloud, right? And that's part of the experience, cool. It's only when you don't know it's going to cloud. Or if you're putting oil and paint to pour it and you don't know it's going to fall off the canvas in 6 months, that's the only time it's a problem.
Right.
But if you know, if you're Goldsworthy and you're stacking dirt and you know in 2 days it's going to be gone in ever-evolving layers of color, see, that's art.
Sure.
That's art because he knows what's happening.
So, okay. So let's get you painting again so you can work through this. I'm going to pull that soapbox back out from underneath
Oh, man,
you.
that's my soapbox.
That
John
is,
may never ask me a question like that again.
I knew that was a soapbox.
I just think as artists we should be more supportive of each other's processes and techniques.
Yeah.
And I think it's perfectly fine when... Oh, by the way, if you're an acrylic artist that paints in an oil method, there's nothing wrong with you either.
Yeah.
That's completely cool. Kudos to you. This is just referring to those artists that have to have a little moment.
So...
And I say, you know what? Work on your dry brushing, sister.
So...
Wow. Now I've started some fight with some... You know what? Your teacher's going to come by and thumb my video down now, and all her little friends are going to come in and be like, get your like me. Okay, it's fine.
Paint it out.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to paint it out.
Drama on the canvas.
So when an artist really, really upsets you with their super opinionated stuff, the best use of your time is to just have fun and paint it out and create art that makes you happy.
Yeah. If I had Texas snowflakes going, I'd put them on for you.
I need them right now. I'm going to make some flowers in my headdress. Is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a nice, delightful, very loose, expressive floral wreath. I'm going to take my phthalo green and my burnt sienna. Just, and I'm going to make some nice, expressive strokes. I'm going to allow it to dry brush if I feel like it as my first layer, or add more fluid to pull it up over. But this is a base coat. We're just creating the base of this fabulous little wreath that she's going to have. Why can't all art teachers be like Zoe Hahn?
Where they warn you up front.
I love her because she's like, I'm not a nice person. You will suffer during this class.
She warns you. This is not going to be fun for you.
This is not going to be easy.
This is not easy.
You're not getting out alive.
Your work.
We're going to work.
It
is
is
like the W out
practice, not magic.
Practice, not magic.
She's one of my favorite people.
Who leaves a skill set on the floor because they want to be an oil artist? Paint oils. That's what Michael Harding oil is for. That's what Williamsburg is for. Enjoy that. It's fantastic stuff. Oil artists are awesome. There, and then they're going to be like, oh, it's because acrylic paint is the oil is toxic. No, it's not. Buy different stuff. Be informed. I've stuck my paint. John's typing. Well, we've just set her off.
No, there's lots of applause. They thought that was
that
was a very good, an excellent use of soapboxery. There's lots of applause and agreeing on and thanking.
I really try to let people be where they are. Like, I disagree with artists a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I'll disagree with the process or something. But I'm, you know what? If they don't directly ask me or it's not in my group, if you're in my group and you say something, for sure, you're in my group, that would be like, I mean, in my class, I'll tell you something. But I don't walk up into some other person's studio and be like, hey, this is all wrong. What are you doing? I mean, you're paying rent. You're buying your art materials. I'm going to let you have your own space. Shh. Shh. And I have opinions. John will tell you, so many of them. I'm still making this nice little brush stroke. This is just the burnt sienna and the phthalo greens, kind of making like a deep forest green here. This is the basis here that I just want to layer in a basis. I'm going to put a bunch of bright color on top of it so it's nice if it's dark underneath. Very expressive, if that's okay.
You were just quoted back.
What?
Karen said she quoted your song back to you. She said, "Release your stress and paint along with me."
Telling you what, man. That's okay. I tagged your teacher because I called her mid-emergent, so.
You don't even know who she is yet. Or he. We don't even know if it's a she.
Tell you what, man. I have
Could be
found
he.
again and again and again really, really hardworking artists, you know, in general. Just respect other hardworking artists and don't roll that stuff out. I'm coming down here and I'm adding the leaves.
Yeah. So. Well, that's okay. I feel like
just like woo.
You got permission from Mark to paint however you want to paint. So
yes,
you can use his paint however you like to use it.
However I like to use it, with students or anybody. I'm just making these lovely shapes here. Again, remember I said I was going to keep some of this, and I really want to keep it.
Yeah.
I really liked it, and I want to retain it. Just keep anything in your piece that you want to retain. Again, we have to imply that her head is like up to here, otherwise we're implying that her forehead is way high up. That's what we're doing, just so you know. Now I feel like that's okay. Okay. So any of us can be triggered. Trigger warning. And that's going to happen in art. You know, art's a really pleasant experience.
It's a passionate place.
It's a passionate place. It really is. Art is an impassioned place because our hearts and souls are in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And wherever your heart and soul is, wherever, you know, you're really feeling things strongly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to dry this with my hairdryer. Wherever you're feeling things strongly, you're going to express yourself.
Yeah. So now when she's using the hairdryer there, we've got it on air only. So because the heat of the hairdryer can affect the way that it dries, it can cause some color shifts sometimes. So if you're using a hairdryer at home, make sure that you have it on the just air setting so that it's just blowing some wind over that, because that's really what's doing the best job of drying it out, is just allowing it to blow over the top of that and make sure that it's just sort of it just dries it naturally by pushing air over it. So, oh yeah, and I'm supposed to say like, comment, subscribe, and share, and put this up there. Yeah, I was getting lost in the thought of that. You put that on cool so that you don't use heat to dry.
Yeah, well, but it definitely helps a little bit to not.
Yeah. And but don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Like, comment, subscribe,
do all those fun things for us.
Except with your teacher. Don't tell her I said all that stuff. She's going to block her on the channel. Do you know I had an art professor once that kept all her colors mixed in baby food jars?
Well, that was kind of cool, though.
No.
I thought they were very pretty.
They were very cool baby food jars, but she couldn't go back and remix a color. Just saying. I'm going to take this nice number 4 round out, and I'm going to make some pretty flowers.
Yes.
Because they're going to make me super happy. I really like quinacridone and cad yellow. I think they're some of my favorite. And I'm going to just...
That's funny.
Make some little abstracty, expressive little brush strokes here with these 2 colors. Why? Because I can.
So
I might actually switch, but I want a different feeling in this brush, so.
So that's funny. Trent was saying he uses a computer fan to dry his paintings.
Oh, that works really well.
Because it's got a little fan. That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, go for that. And it's kind of cool and techy. Like, that's an interesting process. You could talk about that at some point and be like,
yeah. Now-
So I'm just pressing I'm just using this to create some petal-like strokes. And the first time I did kind of a really solid bit of color, and but I want to change it up.
Gotcha.
My prerogative.
Now we did that. We were working on the St. Jude's project with everyone. We were on Derp Squad, raising some money from St. Jude's here just recently.
Yes.
And there were some folks who were wondering how that was going, and I think it went really well. We raised over $2,000.
Yeah, but the squad raised a ton of money.
Yeah, they did really, really well. It's still. I have to go back and check at the details. I know that today it's over, but we're going to continue to support St. Jude here. We're going to be putting the painting that we did there up for sale and donating that money to St. Jude's as well.
It just all still goes to St. Jude's.
Yeah, it just we weren't able to get that in for that project, but we're going to be putting more up on that in this month, and hopefully in the next day or two you'll have some information on that.
Yeah, so you can have that painting.
Yeah. But if you guys don't know about St. Jude's St. Jude's Children's Hospital is one of the leading research hospitals for children, and
I'm grabbing some Dox Purple and some quinacridone.
Yeah, the ailments that they have, not just cancer, but also lots of other life-threatening diseases for children. And they provide a lot of services to those families free of charge and try to make sure that they don't need anything. And the research that they do there is shared with other doctors around the world for free. So just one of the good reasons why we support St. Jude's.
Quinacridone and Dox Purple just here and there throughout this particular flower wreath. I think I might travel down the hair a little bit. Grabbing a little white and quinacridone. Just enjoying this. Come in here. Woo! Letting the color take me away. I might put some of these.
Calgon?
Yeah, some little floating away little flowers because I now feel like it.
That's an 80s retro callback.
Whatever you gotta do. Whatever you gotta do, right? Pull some Quin and some Cad, and I'm gonna get some white into that. Just letting that on the tip and just enjoying some highlights there.
Just a little here and there.
Enjoying it. Little highlights. Because it's fun, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Are we happy there? And that's really what you're looking for is, are you happy?
Are you happy?
Taking a huge risk coming down with the yellow into my purple, but don't care.
You know, while we're talking about are you happy, I want to take a moment and just remind everyone to take a breath and relax and enjoy this moment of painting and realize how lucky we are to be able to be masters of our own destiny, to be able to put this color on these blank canvases and just create, right? I know it's kind of silly after your soapbox, but it's true.
No, I think it's a good point. I think that John is just reminding me that we get to paint and we have our YouTube channel and everything is set in the universe.
And you know, there's a lot of folks out there too that I think, you know, we get so caught up in our everyday lives and the struggles of things that happen, and to take this time to just paint and create is important, and to remember that this time is important.
It is. I'm going to put some more here. I'm fully acknowledging the deviation between these two pieces, just so you know. I'm not in some delusional place. I've just done my own thing here. Just that kind of a day. It is how it is.
She likes the quinacridone on her peoples.
I do.
And so it's funny. It's like, so I can quinacridone her up now.
Just.
I have to find your regular color.
I'm going to grab some purple, some of this. I'm going to make some, I curve some brush strokes around for some expressive little decorative roses.
Now, Denise says she looks alive. Do you think it's because of the watercolor underpainting?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah, I think anytime we use glazing or any of that, there is that incredible expression of skin. When you're doing roses, be sure I'm doing the dark values first on the roses so that I can lighten the petals and make them seem deep. Yeah, and so this glow through the skin does help, and the more you play with that, you can do that in just all acrylic. You can, it's interesting. There's a way to do this effect in almost any media, which is something that I love. And did not do it in the original that you're seeing. But anytime you're doing glazing, and that's why it's so nice to be able to do like what we did, in our Dreamer, where it was the sienna underpainting and then we glazed the skin. There's a bunch of that, and we'll keep playing with that. And very slowly you're going to realize you have a bunch of skills, and then we're going to lean into some more realistic portraits where we do like really cool 3 colors. And you're going to be like, wait, how we do that? And it's going to look like you had 1,000 colors on your palette. Super fun stuff.
So while you're doing, I have a public service announcement.
I'm breathing. I'm
going to give a public service.
I'm going to get some white and pink right now to highlight the tops of my roses.
All you ladies out there, take care of your hearts. We know that there's there were a lot. There were some people saying that they were getting winded at the canvas and they were having some trouble standing up and feeling really tired. And comes to turn out that they had some heart problems. And the ladies out there, they generally don't take their heart as serious as they should.
I agree.
And so be aware of your heart health. Make sure you take care of it.
John's been having me go to the gym, so he's definitely on this heart association. John is in your corner. He's making me walk.
Well, I think it's good for everyone.
I'm going to add some more little petals and some bright green here. Just to I want to keep my prettiness here. But these are just some nice spring petals and some bright green. Like you do. Get some white into that.
No. All right, so here I'll give you a legitimate art question. How about that? Okay.
We're almost there.
So Ian would like to know.
Hi, Ian.
If you want to do the blow thing with acrylic paints, do you still need to think about underbinding to make it wet?
If you're on paper, if you're doing it on just the paper, no. If you are doing it over absorbent ground, no. If you are doing it with high flow acrylics, no. But if you're taking heavy body paint and thinning it enough with water to blow it, yes. Or even fluid, maybe.
Gotcha.
Over canvas. Does that help? I hope that helps.
Fluid over canvas?
Yeah.
Is that like forks over knives?
and really, underbinding is just like, it doesn't necessarily, okay, so sometimes you'll see it happen immediately. A lot of you guys report underbinding to me when you're varnishing and you're brushing it on and the black smears or something doesn't stick and your painting moves. That's underbinding. Yeah. Sometimes you guys are reporting it to me that you had a painting you felt was dry, you went to paint another layer, and it felt like what was underneath it was lifting up. That's underbinding. There's also an underbinding that happens where down the road, 6 months or a year, your painting can begin to delaminate. It's not common, but it can happen, and so it's good. I'm not I as someone who's teaching would just let you know that that's something to, as a student, be like aware of. She's pretty.
She is.
I'm happy with her.
So we're all done there. Well, that's pretty. We should hold it up here for us all to see. We got to see because you're a little off the edge there. Oh, there we go. That's really nice. I like how the roses came in at the bottom.
It's a happy little painting, and I needed it today. Apparently,
you needed it.
Apparently, I was carrying some feels about some stuff.
Well, guys, man, it's been pretty fantastic.
Don't stress out that you're like, oh, I stressed out the Sherpa. I'm fine. I'm gonna go like.
We're gonna
have a smoothie and be all good.
And we're gonna do more paintings.
We're gonna do more paintings. I'm gonna see you guys next week for the Big Art Quest. Thank you for being on the Big Art Quest for me. Thank you for being brave enough to be on this art journey with me. I so appreciate it. So appreciate every minute of your time, every idea, everything you share with me, every painting. I was on Instagram today, just going through the tags, just going wow, wow, wow. I'm going through the groups. Currently. Saturday, we're doing finger painting with my mom and Angela Anderson, but I am not in Angelini because for some reason Facebook is broken and won't let me be.
And I'm going to remind you guys, don't forget to
I'm
stop.
not ignoring you. I'm just not in there because it says no.
Yeah, and I'm going to remind you guys, don't forget to stop by www.theartsherpa.com/BAQ, Big Art Quest. And you can find this and resources for all these other materials out there, right? Okay. Well, I'll let Cinnamon say goodbye then.
Bye. I guess someone's knocking on the door. I'll see you guys at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.